This week on the Pathways to Success, we're going to show you how to build your community to grow your business. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Pathways to Success. I'm here in studio with Jasmin Brand. Jasmin, I want to say hello to our interwebs. Jasmin is an entrepreneur, a media specialist, and the CEO of Launch DFW. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been a while since you and I have connected. You've been all over the place.
Always, Julian.
Yeah. Well, so the new venture here with Launch DFW,
Yes.
I know that was something that you just recently started in May, I believe it is.
Yeah. So, you know, what's interesting, my journey as an entrepreneur has been ebb and flow. It's been highs and lows. And one of the cool things, though, about it are opportunities. And so running my marketing agency for the last 9 or 10 years, I was presented with an opportunity to connect with the founder of Launch DFW, who was looking to kind of take Launch DFW to the next level. And I wasn't really expecting to become CEO of Launch DFW, but it's just kind of one of those magical things that happen.
Yeah, and you've been running your own independent agency for like years now, right?
Definitely. And I was laid off. And wasn't sure what my next phase in life was going to be. Started doing consulting on the side, and 9 years later, I'm still here.
And you're still here.
Yeah.
Well, what was it about the Launch DFW opportunity that made you interested in this versus doing your own thing?
You know, I'm still doing the consulting, so this is why I'm not sleeping a lot right now. But, from the tech world, I think a black woman running a tech magazine is pretty badass. And so it was one of those kind of opportunities I kind of had to take it.
Sure, yeah.
But more importantly, the Dallas-Fort Worth tech scene is booming, is exploding, and I just kind of want to be part of that journey.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, tell us more about Launch DFW. What exactly is it, and what can people learn to get from it?
So it's an interactive digital marketing company, media company, but more importantly is we produce content and events. So it started in 2009, and it really is kind of like a hub for anything that's technology-wise. So if you're a startup company and you're looking to find investors, if you're looking for inspiration, if you're thinking about starting a company, we hope that you think Launch DFW is a resource for you.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, and you said it's been around since 2009. So I guess tell us a little bit more about it. Like, I guess some success stories of leveraging the platform, or
so a lot of the really popular success stories for startups that have happened here in Dallas-Fort Worth have been either in some way we've covered them, or they've presented at our monthly tech event called Dallas New Tech. So it was one of the first really kind of media outlets for people that were in the startup community. Now, of course, we've got a couple of other outlets now that are covering and reporting on the community. But Launch DFW really was the first. And so kind of what my mission is to kind of take that to the next level, kind of connect with people who maybe don't even know they're part of the startup community, but expand it to really kind of diversify, make sure that the stories we're reporting on look like the city we live in.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So I know DFW has been, and I'm so bad at citing resources, but I read an article the other day. It said something like Dallas is number 11 of like most explosive tech cities or whatnot.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about the landscape that we have here in Dallas.
So what's interesting about Dallas-Fort Worth are the number of companies that are based here. That's actually what makes our startup community pretty amazing. So if you're a company wanting to connect with a major Fortune 100 company, we have quite a few that are here.
Do you know how many?
You know, I'm not sure, but I know we rank pretty high as far as our business community. And that's one of the things when we hear about startups bringing their companies here, why they've chosen to stay here and not go to Silicon Valley is because of our business community and the ability to connect directly with CEOs who really kind of can make an impact and make or break your startup.
What do you think it is about like Dallas specifically versus, let's say, even Austin, right? Or Houston? Like, why Dallas?
You know, it's interesting. I think it's still new and still fresh here, so there's still lots of opportunity. Now, our ecosystem could be a little bit more connected. So like for Silicon Valley, a good startup ecosystem involves your universities, your city officials, the corporations. So I think Dallas-Fort Worth, we still have a bit of a challenge there. And even the investor community too, making sure that people that understand that there's companies here to invest in. I think that's one of the biggest kind of opportunities we have here, attracting more investors to startups here. But the energy, the excitement, the low cost of living, kind of where we're located just in general. It's easy to get here, it's easy to travel anywhere, but more importantly, those companies here, those major companies that can actually make decisions, can write checks. I mean, I think that's what makes Dallas pretty cool.
Yeah, and my audience knows that I'm a recruiting professional, right? So I oversee hiring for a mobile development studio, and I hire people from all over the country that want to come to Dallas specifically because of the low cost of living, because of all the reasons that you mentioned here. So it's been pretty amazing. So in terms of like startup, right? I was looking through the website Launch DFW. A lot of people think startup means tech, but not necessarily, right? Like I saw some restaurant owners, the beef
For
jerky
sure.
one.
Yeah, and so that's kind of probably my influence, quite honestly, because Launch DFW, you know, our original mission has always been to focus on the tech startup community, but I feel like our communities, and that's kind of from my marketing background, right?
Yep.
Even when I was working with a client, they're like, Jasmin, we really want this type of consumer to come and buy. Well, I always looked at who's part of that consumer's community, and we know that the tech community is growing, and it's a very connected community, but there's people that are part of that community that are not necessarily tech. And so part of my job as CEO of Launch DFW is to not only ensure that we're reporting accurate, current information, but we're expanding our reach. And there's a lot of people that didn't know about Launch DFW, and I think are now discovering it. And one of my goals is to not only report on tech startups, but to also companies that are doing something innovative. That beef jerky company, it's a Laotian family, and they just started these pop-up kind of restaurants. They did these pop-up dinners, and one of the things that was super popular at the pop-up dinners was this beef jerky. They didn't plan that, and it was one of these things that's the kind of magic that we kind of want to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's delicious too, by the way.
Well, definitely check that out and plug it in the show notes. So as far as like diversity goes, like I know that's a big initiative for you. How does that actually help the business?
Yeah, so I'm one of those people, I actually really hate the word diversity.
Okay.
Now, I say this just because I am African-American woman, hello, but also too, just for me, I went to SMU, and I actually went to Catholic private school, and so I've always kind of been someone who's probably been one of few as far as African-American presence at school. So I've always kind of been really comfortable doing my own thing and not necessarily believing I needed to lead with my ethnicity. But I also am very proud of my ethnicity, and I think it's really not about diversity, because diversity, and I have a mentor that we were just talking about this, and diversity sometimes is an image proposition, she always used to tell me. Meaning, you can put the right people in there, but are you really being inclusive? And I think that's what I'm passionate about.
That's a better word.
Yeah, is inclusion. Because it's like almost like if you had a party and you invited all the people there, but they're not dancing, they're not mingling and hanging out and having fun. Dancing, inviting people to the party is diversity. Making sure people are taking shots together and dancing, that's inclusion. That's kind of what I would like for Launch DFW, because you could always say, oh, we've done a feature on Black women in tech, or we've done a feature on Latino men. And it's like, okay, we've checked that off the box, but are we actually truly ensuring that Latino startup entrepreneurs feel like they're part of our community? Or are we reporting the stories that maybe not anyone else is knowing about? The only way you can be an inclusive kind of anything is to be part of the community, to actually go see, experience, feel what that community is going through. And so it's not just about inviting them to something or covering them every now and then, it's actually truly understanding their community. And I think that comes from respect and just showing that you care about where people come from.
And how is Launch ensuring that takes place? How do you make people feel welcome to the community? Well,
you know, it's interesting, just me being an African-American woman, that has already increased the amount of African-American people we have at our events. It's just not even from this, because the fact that they see someone who looks like them makes me even click on the link now. So that's just the first thing. The second thing is also inviting certain people and making them aware of Launch DFW, but not just inviting them to the events, but also telling them, hey, we'd like to share your story too. So one of the things I've been doing for the last couple of months is going out in the community, just meeting people. Hey, we're Launch DFW, we'd like to tell your story, keep us posted on what's going on, but going to where they live. Not necessarily have to come to our events, so actually going out to their events and going to their neighborhoods and going to their communities. And I think that shows a level of respect too. Yeah. So it's been busy, but it's been exciting.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, given your marketing and your agency background, I wanted to give our audience, some pretty tangible sort of how-tos.
Yeah.
And I know a topic that you're passionate about is how entrepreneurs can build engaged communities both on and offline. So give us some stuff on that.
So, what's so interesting from client side, they'll say, Jasmin, we need to have 100,000 social media followers, and we need it by like December, and it's like October. And I'm like, okay, sure. And so building a community is this authentic, amazing thing, which you could see a 14-year-old in like Louisville, Kentucky, who likes to dress up as a drag queen. He's got 1 million followers. There's one I follow actually on Instagram now, but he's got 1 million followers. I'm never gonna meet this kid. I sometimes worry about this kid and his makeup collection at 14, but there's something about what he does to build this community, and I think it goes to something we've talked about. It's like being passionate, this authentic passion. People relate to that, that you can't really kind of put a dollar amount on. And I think you've got to also think offline and online. So a lot of times people are like, I want to build a community. I've got this idea and I want to bring people to where I'm at. Well, you've got to think an online and offline strategy. And so sometimes we think I'm doing all this stuff social, but how am I meeting people offline? And so one of the things I always think about is I've got this community I'm wanting to build. I want to make sure and provide them several outlets to connect with me as well. Sometimes people have a really engaged social following, but then there's nothing going on offline.
Yeah.
And you've got people part of your community who are okay on social, but not necessarily, that's not where they live and breathe. So I always am looking from a 360 approach. So I'm connecting with you online, but I'm also giving you opportunities to connect with me, but to also connect with other people in our community too. So for example, if you have a blog and you know that your followers are foodies, so I'm going to be giving you amazing, visually engaging content online about food and my food journeys. But then every now and then I'm going to bring us all together to hang out, try food together, experience and meet other people we're all part of the same community. And sometimes you don't give people a chance to kind of meet each other. And so I think an offline, online joint strategy is the key to building a really engaged, sustainable community.
You know, I think so also. It's like some of the best guests that I've met are not necessarily online. I usually meet them in passing. Like I'm very soon, Joe Scott is going to be coming on the show, and he's one of the biggest YouTubers in Dallas. And I didn't know of him online. I met him in person, and then we got to know each other because there's so much that you kind of lose just communicating online.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Definitely.
So you talked about, so first up, this idea of building a community.
Yeah.
Is this for everyone? Like for the individual who wants to start, let's just say like a small restaurant, does he need to have a community or just kind of appeal to the immediate network that he has?
I think we do. And the reason why is because even if you're not building a brand or you're not, if you've got like an amazing, podcast or you've got a large tech community you're building, if it's your church, if it's the nonprofit that you support and raise funds for, we all have some community in some way. And one of the things that I've always noticed, even with philanthropy, they are the biggest hearts, but sometimes not always thinking about it from the business perspective. And it's like when they want to raise money, that you should be building the community before you need to actually do the ask, because then people care. So when you ask something, it's like too, even if you've got like your podcast, for example, hey, listen to our podcast. Well, if I'm building the community the whole time, whatever you tell me is gold. Like I'm following, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, like I'm part of this community. And so I think it doesn't matter what you are, if you're a brand or if you're a CEO of a company, you've got some community, you've got something out there you're passionate about. The more people you have that support it and advocates, the better. So I think we all need to be thinking about who our community is.
So as far as that goes, like what are some of the tangible benefits? Like if you had to sell someone who's about to start doing any kind of business, right? Why community is important. Like what would you say to that person?
Because we need each other. And I've discovered this over the last almost decade, which is scary to even say that, but the last decade. In the beginning, when I started my company, I tried to do everything myself. I'm definitely an extroverted introvert. I like to work by myself a lot. But I've realized when I've put myself out there and I've connected with, especially a lot of women, young women who've started companies, they've not only given me just energy to keep going, because even at this level, I've had a lot of success, but I've also made a million mistakes and have lost a ton of money too. And so sometimes you're just like, I'm tired of this, like I'm done with it. So even hearing someone who's just now starting their business, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember the excitement behind that. So I think you have to have a community, because anything you do is hard. Life is hard. And so having some support, whether it's 4 people, 400, keeps you going, but also keeps fresh ideas too. We can get very stale and think of things very myopically. And I'm very I can be very stubborn too, just because I've been doing things for a long time. Like I'm a horrible employee at this point. I can never work for anybody else. But the cool thing I've learned at this point is I don't want to be right. I want to be happy and I want to be successful. And it's taken me a long time to get there, that I want fresh energy and fresh eyes. And I want it to be hot. And like even right now I'm in my 30s, but I have an intern right now, she's 21, she just told me about some app. I would have never even discovered that. And her excitement and energy, enthusiasm is something like, this is pretty cool. So that you've got to have people around you to keep things going fresh, and it's to stay hot too. Because you could be doing something that's like, you want people to tell you you need to take it up to the next level, or it's time to change it up. You need that. I believe that for the longest time I was trying to be this lone wolf, but it's like the more that I put my ideas out there, the more that I put myself out there, the more I seem to connect with other people, and try not to be perfect all the time. But sometimes it's that vulnerability that kind of creates that connection. So I totally get that. And I'm reading a book right now. It's called Show Your Work, and it talks about that ideas and great things don't necessarily come, and sources of creativity don't just come from alone. You can't just do it in a vacuum, but by really putting it out there. It's collaboration. Sure.
So
And when you put good energy out there, I truly believe this. When you put good energy, it's going to attract the right people. Now, every now and then you'll have some haters, right? But for the most part, when you put yourself out there and you put really good energy, it's going to attract the right people. It really is. And you'll be surprised when you actually realize that there's no perfectionism ever. Like the most amazing events or amazing projects I've had have been the ones that have been the worst as far as my perfectionism checklist. Like everything went wrong. So, and the events that went off seamless and were perfect, or the projects were the ones that I didn't make any money or they didn't turn into anything. So I've just learned to kind of let go somewhat. I'm still a bit of a control freak.
So how does someone start for that new startup person who's going to start like a food truck or something like that, right? Something kind of lo-fi. Where do they start building that community? What's the first step?
I think the first step is to make sure people want what you're selling. You know, a lot of times people have ideas, and like I remember even my parents who support me were always like, "That's a great idea, Jasmin, but I don't know." And I was like, "Great, okay, I'm gonna start this." And you start getting out there, and it's like, they're already doing that, Jasmin. It's not needed. So the first thing is to create an idea, or to find out that your idea is actually needed. So to figure out what you want. So like a food truck is great, but there's tons of food trucks right now. It's kind of at this peak where there's a lot. So you'd really have to say, okay, I'm going to do a food truck, but what's going to be different about mine? So I think first is finding an idea that's going to be something that's going to be attractive and needed and wanted by people. The second thing is, how are you going to support yourself? Are you working full-time, or are you going to be doing this a full-time hustle? I'm a big proponent of side hustles, so keeping your full-time, and I've told people this all the time, they'll leave their jobs and to do that. No, you work your full-time until it becomes too unbearable to do both, because that consistent check is like gold. You want to have that check, because the startup community and startup businesses is exciting, but it's volatile. You know, there's times you can have a really good year, good month, and there's times we won't have anything. And so having the stability of a full-time job, yes, it's hard to do both, but that's startup life. That's why there's only 1 or 2% of people that actually venture over into being an entrepreneur, because it's not for everyone.
Right.
So make sure your idea is valid and that it's needed. And then two, what's your daily life going to be like? Is this going to be a side hustle, or are you going to take the chance and make it a full-time hustle? So those are probably my first 2 steps before you get past go.
Okay. So let's say you validate the idea, you've seen some market acceptance, and you're starting to have a business now, right? Like, what are some of the tools that startup businesses can use to grow their community?
The easiest one is network, and not necessarily just go around doing business cards, but actually going out there and making people aware of who you are. So a lot of times I see people go out and network, and they've got their business cards, and they're like a machine gun with those business cards. They're not truly making connections. You know, when I do networking, I haven't done it like I used to do it, but when I didn't have a goal of quantity, it was quality for me. And so people consistently seeing you out there and knowing what you do, so being able to describe what you do in 15 seconds, I think is really, really important. And people say, oh, you've got a 30-second elevator speech. That's too long. I think you need to be able to tell people succinctly what you do and what makes you amazing in 15 seconds, but also quality and consistent. So like creating a networking schedule. People were like, I need more time to work on my website, Jasmin. I'm going to work on my business proposition. That stuff's great, but if you don't have the people, you don't have the money, you don't have the connections. You know, I meet so many PR, media people. I keep track of those people. I may not need them now, but I'm going to need them eventually. And I want them to keep seeing me. There was this girl, Jasmin, she does marketing, branding, and she started. Eventually people are going to get to see you. And I did network when I started my business. I had no money for marketing, so I spent my time on Twitter, just putting content out there and tweeting with people that I thought were really cool, and getting them to tweet me back too, and just having this relationship. So like a lot of the relationships when I started were people from all over the country, and I'm still connected with them too today. And so networking, that's all I could do, was go out there and meet people, tell them what I'm doing, tell them I'd love to kind of meet with them, not selling, but just trying to connect with people. Going out there to network for quality versus quantity was key. So if you get started out and you're not sure where to get started, go out there and meet people. And it's not even about having to have everything perfect when you network too. It's just about, I believe in kismet and fate, and I believe that people are brought together, and you just never know who you're going to meet. And it's free usually. I mean, sometimes networking events, a couple bucks, but it's worth it. I
love how you always start with kind of like the in-person thing first before going online, right? And I've seen the benefits. That's how you and I met. You and I met through Judy. Yeah. And then you invited me to come to, I think, like an influencers event.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. So
and I think you've had some on your show.
Baylor.
Keon.
Oh, and Keon as well.
Yeah, so I saw that. I was like, this is so great. Yeah, this is awesome.
Full circle.
It
full circle.
is.
So like when something that you're very good at as well is of course the online aspect. So I mean, do you have recommendations for startup people once they kind of get going on the in-person side? Like, is there a platform that they should move into first? Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, pros and cons of each?
You know,
thoughts on that?
Definitely online. And I think because I'm on the upwards end of the millennial phase, I think that's why I'm so offline, because I know hardcore millennials like, what? Offline, what? But because I'm aging towards this place, is that's why I'm still like hardcore offline, because that's where I make most of my connections. But yes, you need an online strategy. I always say pick one platform and kill it. You know, a lot of times, what I'm seeing a lot of people do is spend a lot of time on Instagram, which is great. You get a good return, you get quick response, and we live in a society where we need quick response to validate who we are, right? I post this, I want to see how many likes I get. It doesn't mean if it converts to anything, but the likes make me feel like I'm doing something. And sometimes you could get confused by that. Like, I'm getting likes and engaged. And conversely, I actually am not always the best online because I'm actually working. I'm actually making things happen, right? So I have to kind of balance it out myself too. But just because you're not getting 10 likes doesn't mean things are happening. So, and I see people ignoring Twitter, which is, I think, is still a really amazing tool to get out there and connect, and it's kind of a pocket of gold too, because everyone's so focused on Instagram. And what if Instagram goes down? I talk to young women about this all the time. Like, their whole business is directed on Instagram. They're selling on it. They're making connections. I was like, what if it goes down? What's your backup? And YouTube actually is really the most powerful channel right now. I mean, it's
YouTube.
Yeah, it's greater than. I mean, I think it goes Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, or Instagram, LinkedIn, and then Twitter. Yeah. So YouTube is really the most engaged, but video. I mean, it's just video content is the best in general. I don't see people doing it. It's a lot of people just all their eggs in one basket on Instagram because it's got the quickest return. And so I feel like pick a channel that you feel comfortable with, but don't pick it just because you think you see everyone else doing it. See what works best for you. Like, Instagram works great if you're in certain industries, right? So motivation, food, retail, highly visually engaging type of businesses. If you're selling insurance, it's a little harder, right?
Right.
But Twitter, I have conversations with people all the time. You can really set yourself up to be a thought leader on that. And LinkedIn, of course, I still think it's the holy grail as far as B2B business related. Now, I've seen a couple people selling like boots and shoes and makeup. I'm like, girl, what are you doing on LinkedIn? Get out of here. I didn't say that to her, it's just in my head.
Yeah, right.
But like, she should be on Instagram. Like, that's an Instagram focused post. But B2B, even this podcast, I feel like this is totally LinkedIn hardcore, because it's B2B. Me as a business owner looks and your podcast would be something I like watching. Yeah.
Maybe I should get on LinkedIn.
Okay, that'll be our first thing after we do this.
Glad you came on the show.
But it's your people, right? It's your people, and they were people that actually engage with podcasts. I just read a study on the Power podcast, and the age group right now, it's men, and it's like a 25 to 38. I mean, that's sweet spot as far as marketing. That's who's downloading podcasts. Yeah, and it's growing. I'll send you it afterwards, but it's an amazing study.
What did you say it was, 25 to 28?
The 25 to 38, which is like the secret sauce for marketing. Yeah, but it's men, young guys that are doing it, and that's me. Perfect for that.
Yeah. Do you have any female statistics on that?
Actually, I'll send you the study. It's actually really, really cool. I posted on LinkedIn a couple months ago that I was like, this is fascinating, because I actually been wanting to do a podcast for like years and years and years, but I was like not sure what I wanted to do.
Sure.
And I know Launch DFW, we've talked about doing a tech related one, but I've got so many other passions too. So just trying to figure out what's the best direction for. Plus, I want it to be good and quality. I mean, like yours, I think it's high quality. So I think everyone puts out things, but I really want it to have a purpose and meaning. So, so I think, and YouTube, of course, is a no-brainer too. But pick like a channel. Maybe if your Instagram is your baby, still do that, but pick another one that maybe it's hard. Sometimes we don't do things because we're not aware of it. But if you spend an afternoon or evening of Googling, you can pick up a lot of the stuff. That's the cool place of where we are now. That's why people can create their own brands now, because all you have to do is look and see what other people are doing. That's kind of and then put your own kind of, your own spin on it.
So that's a good segue, actually, because earlier when we were having our initial conversation, you were talking about how marketing agencies kind of need to change. But I've actually also heard that about how businesses also need to change, in the sense that you shouldn't, it's not just about building a business, it's about publishing also, right?
Yeah, totally.
Give us some ideas on that.
So my company was originally called Brand Point Solutions, and I had that's what I started when I was laid off. I used to work in insurance, and I started this as a lone person. It grew and it had a team. But after a while, I started to get bored by what I was doing because it was just, we were doing the same, which is fine. Like, we had amazing clients, like building websites, doing amazing events, doing strategies as far as, you know, product launches and cool branding stuff. But I was like, this is feeling kind of bored. And what I started thinking was, I remember the Vogue every year, the big September issue or whatever, which is still like kind of the holy grail if you're in fashion for Vogue. Like, September is the big fall issue, and it's always a big thick one. And I was thinking, like, what's next though? Like, readership is down for Vogue. Readership is down for a lot of different media outlets, media junkets. And I go, but yet content is still increasing, right? So the more content's still king, you've got content creators making millions of dollars. So it's like, what's the difference here? And then you've got these agencies here that are publishing content or not. So it felt like I've started seeing these trends where we know that media outlets and magazines, people aren't reading them down. Like, even if you see your newspaper, it's shrunk, right? Like, size of it.
Yeah.
But you've got content creators making millions of dollars. So it's like, what's the difference here? And me, with Brand Point, it's like, we need to do more than just do websites and need to do more than just be a marketing agency. We need to start publishing content. And so for a year, I started thinking about the next phase for Brand Point. And what I wanted to do was have a company that had a personality or identity. Like, no longer just be an agency, but be actually a company that represented the feel of what I wanted to do. And so DARBY JAMES was this idea I had. And it was going to be, we still be an agency of sorts, but we're now going to start publishing content and events. So I think marketing agencies no longer can just do the standard stuff. I think you can make tons of money of that, right? But I think to be relevant and to move to the next level and to attract the coveted millennials that people are always talking about, you've got to start publishing content. And so DARBY JAMES became a publisher. So we published several blogs, we're publishing several event series. One of the popular ones is Beats by Her, a platform for female artists. That's something that I would have never done as Brand Point, because we were focused on website building, we're focused on doing big events, city stuff, we're focused on rolling out logos, which is stuff that I love to do. But for me personally, I was like, it's time to go to the next level. And I knew when I was approaching 9 to 10 years, I was like, what do I want to do the next level? And I wanted to start doing something that was more exciting and more creative. And so that's DARBY JAMES rolled out last December. So we still do marketing, because people are like, you're still not going to do marketing? It's like, yeah, for sure. But I wanted to really start to become more of a publisher. And so the blogs and the content, and that's kind of what led to the journey at Launch DFW, honestly, because it started to really focus and publish a lot of content. And it's led me to this journey at Launch DFW, which I would have never predicted. And sometimes when you've been doing something for a long time, stepping out of yourself and figuring out how can I push myself to the next level always leads to new opportunities. If I had not taken Brand Point, totally remixed it, like totally brand new name change, logo change, everything, if I hadn't done that, it would have probably not led me to Launch DFW, which is kind of exciting.
That makes a ton of sense, you know, and now that you say that, it's like, I see it everywhere now. Like, for example, like, you know, Gary Vaynerchuk, right?
Of course,
So, like, you see his stuff everywhere, his speeches, his awesome vlogs and everything. I don't think he's necessarily monetizing that content. It's almost kind of like advertising for his business, which is a marketing agency.
Well, he just rolled out, and I can't think of the name, but he now created a marketing agency. So, which is so brilliant. So he started the other way. He's publishing content. His popular videos were awesome. He's doing speeches. Then he now has created a marketing agency now based on content. So it's really brilliant. And it's even like thinking about the music industry too. Music is same thing. Music companies can no longer just be music companies. They need to be branding companies too. So when I have an artist, I'm no longer just pushing out music. I'm actually worried and focused on their brand, right? So now branding, they now need to be doing the same stuff that I've been doing for a long time, marketing and branding. So combining those things, no longer thinking of ourselves in silos. I mean, Gary Vee is really brilliant in the fact that he's done the content, now he's taking his agency to help clients. So you've got these community, this business community. Gary's been producing all this amazing content. Now he's created this vehicle now to put the two together. He's like, I've done this for myself, I can do it for you too. It's really, really brilliant.
So why do you think it works?
All the time.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, you look for best practices and like his thought leadership, but why do you think it works? Why do you think publishing is actually, it's converting?
It is, but you know what it is? It's because it's content. And we now live in a world that's purely based on content. You know, even if I'm looking for trends, or I go to Twitter, and that's why I say Twitter is kind of I know Twitter, and Twitter is it's a love-hate relationship, because now they're also going to expand the Twitter account, which I'm not a fan of now.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, because it's supposed to only be 140, now it's going to double, which is bad. But it's still, when I want to see what people are talking about, I do hashtag searches on Twitter. It tells me like real time, and even this is morbid, but like if I hear someone's passed away, I'm like, what? I go to Twitter and I see it trending, I'm like, it's real. I don't even look at the news anymore. So if I'm looking for regionally, like what's going on, even like the tech community, when I started Launch DFW, I'm not part of the tech world. I think that's why it's working, because I think they've been so focused on ourselves, speaking to your own people, that they've kind of not looked at outward. So what I started to do, just researching other startup communities around the country, just so I could start to figure like what flavor we should have. I just started doing searches on Twitter, and Instagram's really good for this too, although it's a little bit more scattered. You can see real conversations. That's why I still like Twitter, because you can see true conversations, people, thought leaders in there. Instagram is good, but there's a lot of spam in there too, because people kind of hijack hashtags a lot on Instagram. But Twitter, if you go hashtag Seattle startup, I'm gonna now see probably startups talking. I'm gonna hear about media talking about startups, PR people. It just gives you a really more targeted kind of focus on research. And I think hashtags are great for research. That's what I use them for.
Dude, blow my mind. I never thought of Twitter as a market research tool.
I love it. Yeah,
and a lot of people. Price of the video, man. My gosh. Yeah.
And a lot of people kind of forget Twitter. When I look at their profiles, they've got a Twitter account set up, but they're not doing anything with it. And I think it's just because it does require some time. Twitter requires you actually having conversations with people and actually going in and reading. Like Instagram, you can do a quick scan real quick and like things and you're done. And I think it's symbolic of the society we're in now, where it's a very quick return. And Twitter does require you to actually be involved in the conversation. But it's kind of like when we talked about in the beginning. If I want to be an inclusive whatever, marketing agency, podcast host, inclusive media outlet, I've got to get into the communities that I'm trying to serve. And the only way you get in there is to be listening, right? And so that's sometimes too with tech people, sometimes I'm still learning about like what they like, what they do. My background is hardcore business. And so I just go and listen on Twitter too, just so I can kind of see what they're talking about. So, but that's the way I can kind of respect where they're coming from and be inclusive, as opposed to diversity of just poking them and like representing, okay, I've got a woman in tech now. We did a story on her, but now if I follow her, I just go and see what she's been talking about. Like, oh, she's super passionate about this, or this is something I didn't know women in tech were facing. So I think that's why it goes back to community building. If I want to build a community, I've got to care about the community that I'm serving. I can't just get people in the room. It all is really connected. You know, people have these huge communities on Instagram, but are they really kind of engaged? Some of the influencers do a fantastic job. If they ask you to do something, their community to do something, people do it. Like, hey, I want you to go check out this thing. People will go do it. Yeah, because they've taken the time to really build it, which is really cool to watch.
Yeah. So let's say that we're all, I'm sold on the idea of building community and everything, and using the various platforms to be a publisher of content. How would you advise kind of like the initial startup as far as what kind of content, like what's good content, what's bad content, what works?
So I think you've got to just experiment sometimes. I think it's once again, because Julie, we're both perfectionists, so I feel like we both feel like it's got to be good. Now, I think quality over quantity, so I'd much rather put out good stuff than put out a ton of stuff every day.
Right.
And that's even with Launch DFW. We've got a slow ramp of the content. At first, I wasn't publishing anything because the content wasn't good. And so for me, I'd rather put out good stuff. I think it goes back to passion and really kind of highlighting what you're doing. So if you are, I just say, a fashion boutique, the best thing for you to do is to showcase what makes you different from other boutiques, and that's going to be the designers you work with, the clothing, the pieces. Do they have stories behind them? Are they in line with certain trends? Like, is purple huge right now? Is that why you're covering stuff like that? The founders, do they have a cool story? Why did they get started? So I think telling your story, which you hear a lot of people say, but we kind of forget to do it, right? So telling your story. Yeah, and also you need to be selling too. I mean, like social channels, if you've got a business, should be some kind of, always be closing, but it should be like an 80-20 rule. So 80% kind of telling your story and promote, but 20% promotion, so that it's not like, because you see those channels where it's just like, I got it, we get what you sell. Like, I can't stand it anymore. So it's like connecting with people, but people sometimes forget to sell too. So you do need to also always be closing. But the cool thing is, if you're building an authentic community and showcasing what you love and passion, people are going to want to buy it anyway.
Yeah.
They really will.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Jasmin, anything else that our viewers and listeners can benefit from in terms of like building community? Any other kind of tips?
You know, I think just get started.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we get like analysis paralysis, I think it's the phrase, and we sit there and watch what other people are doing on social, and we compare ourselves to what people are doing, and to stop comparing yourself to what other people. Because the interesting thing is you can get caught up, oh my God, they've got 30,000 followers. It looks like they get 500 posts. I mean, focus on your journey and focus on what your community means to you. But also, are you doing it for the authentic reasons too? If you're doing things from authenticity and it's an organic, like I'm truly passionate about making people successful in their jobs, right? That is, you need to make sure you're showing that too, but that's going to eventually connect with the right people. So I think getting started, not comparing yourself to other people, but making sure you're remaining authentic to what your original purpose was, because you can kind of get caught up. And I'm telling you, I love Instagram too. It sounds like I don't, but I do. But Instagram is one of these things where it's a love-hate thing, because it can really make you feel very jaded if you're just getting started out, because that you're not good enough, and you are.
Love it.
Yes.
Jasmin, there was a ton of value in everything that you just shared here today. I had no idea it was going to get so technical. Thank you so much.
And I didn't even have hardly any coffee either. That's the crazy part.
So Jasmin, how do people connect with you, connect with Launch DFW? Tell us all that.
So Launch DFW, you can go to launchdfw.com. We host a monthly event. It's actually called Dallas New Tech. And it's networking, but it's also a chance for people to pitch new ideas. And it's the first Tuesday of the month. Every month, and so that's our successful kind of event that's been going on. LaunchDFW.com. If you've got a story, you can also go on there and tell us. If you've got a tip, if you've got a startup and you're looking to get started, hit us up that way. And then I'm on all the social channels too. You can always hit me up. It's Jasmin with no E and Brand. I always say like Raisin Brand. So, and actually my dog's name is Raisin Brand too. So
there you go. Awesome. We'll make sure to have all this plugged into the show notes. So please connect with Jasmin, connect with Launch DFW, share this out with everyone that you know. Please leave a comment, subscribe to the podcast, and we'll see you next week on the next episode of The Pathways to Success.